Hey guys, my name's Heyjinx or DOS, and you're Watching Over Overwatch. Our subject today is SST Laboratories Siege Automation E54, but you can just call him Bastion. Bastion was a type of robot that was mass-produced to defend against the Omnic Crisis. The machines were peacekeepers, but at the sight of danger could transform to obliterate anything in their line of sight. Unfortunately, during the crisis, the robots were turned against their creators, forming the vast majority of the rebel army. Once the war had ended, almost every unit was destroyed. However, our specific unit that we're discussing today slipped into the shadows, only to be forgotten for a decade. Nature began to claim our little robot buddy, until suddenly, he regained power. Bastion was curious about his surroundings, intrigued by the world. His interest in war had all but faded, but his horizon was filled with goals of finding purpose and exploration. Our cuddly robo-friend is much like the nature he takes an interest in. He's fairly harmless, but if he senses danger, his protective instincts, or program instincts for that matter, take hold and he opens fire. Though he no longer takes an interest in combat, let's see how Bastion might be used if he were to engage upon the enemy. Bastion's primary weapon skill is called Configuration Assault. Instead of having two hands, Bastion has a hand and a firearm. Literally, his arm is a weapon. He's kinda like a pirate with a hook on his hand, but instead of a hook, attached lies his lead blaster. Configuration Assault isn't Bastion's preferred mode, somewhat like Widowmaker's gun when she isn't zoomed in. Aside from its mediocre damage, it only holds 20 rounds. The only real use for Configuration Assault is for protection when migrating across the battlefield. As stated in our hero overview, Bastion is one of the heroes that doesn't have a mobility skill. Instead, Bastion's shift transforms the almost useless Configuration Assault into Configuration Siege. The skill is called Reconfigure and allows him to swap between the two modes previously discussed. Configuration Siege allows Bastion to unload 200 rounds in about 8 seconds. This mode is optimal for almost all combat scenarios involving Bastion. The shield blocks 1000 damage and holds out longer than most players might think. This shield only protects Bastion from frontal attacks. His sides, back, and head, if you will, are completely vulnerable. This mode also removes all mobility, including WASD. Just in case your shield lets a few bullets slip through, Bastion's E can fix that right up. His E is appropriately titled Self-Repair. This allows him to restore health at fairly quick speeds. During repair, he is not able to use any weapons. However, the repair can be cancelled at any time. From what it looks like, Self-Repair does not charge your ultimate, but that would be a bit game breaking if it did, don't you guys think? Anyway, let's move on to one of my favorite abilities, Remote Mine. Remote Mine, as you may have guessed by process of elimination, is Bastion's ultimate, and how ultimate, uber, awesome, exciting the skill is. With this joyous skill, a robotic warrior is able to deploy a mine on wheels, but this mine isn't any ordinary mine. Aside from the fact that it has wheels, it's lined with miniguns that eliminate anything in its circumference. Before watching the ability trailers on the Overwatch website, I actually used the method displayed on Bastion's ultimate trailer, and oh how fun it was. His preposterous damage output from Configuration Siege makes it extremely easy to charge his ultimate. His ultimate was almost always ready, due to the frontal damage sponge and the destructive minigun attached. I tend to camp corners with this tenacious bee, have Torb set up a turret behind my shield, mow down my enemies, and pop that ultimate whenever it's up. Setting the mine up right in front of you should ensure your safety for most Rambo style classes. If you're taking any splash damage, just use that E while the other team is respawning, but keep an eye out for those Widowmaker headshots. There are numerous fantastic strategies with our minigun on legs, including sitting on top of the payload with Torb's turrets and Winston's shields. But nothing beats running to the only entrance of the base, setting up shop, and going to town on the other team. As overpowered as Bastion may seem, he too has his weaknesses. Remember that in Siege mode, Bastion can't move, meaning a perfect shot, and all extreme mobility characters are basically his counters. Reaper can teleport behind him, Tracer can blink past him, Pharah can fly above him, and Winston can jump into him. The list goes on. A good Bastion shouldn't have any problems fighting most characters, as he can take them down before they actually get any hits on him. But a well-versed enemy should at the very least put up a good fight. He's also extremely slow, so if he isn't accompanied by teammates when traveling, his survival rate is greatly decreased. I could talk about Bastion for hours as he's my favorite hero, but for today that wraps up our video. We hope you enjoyed it. Thank you and please subscribe.